The pin looked innocent, a slim gold thing, laid like a blade on my dining table. $300,000? Mom, sign it now? My son said, and the room lost its air. His wife smiled the way perfume smiles when it is a little too strong. If you really love your son, you will not let him get into trouble. I poured tea with a steady hand and felt my world tilt. Under the table, my fingers found the key to a safe that did not matter and hid the truth that did. I am Beverly Hale, 70 years old, a widow in a cedar-sided house in San Diego that my husband Robert and I once filled with roses, piano music, and patient laughter. Robert died of heart disease 12 years ago. I stayed with the sea for company and a routine that felt like a promise. My only child, Marcus, grew into a busy man with a quick smile and quicker excuses. He married Tessa, a woman who arrived in clouds of perfume and an appraising gaze. I tried to believe I was unfair for doubting her. I tried to believe love would make everything simpler. What I learned instead was that love cannot read contracts. They came late in the afternoon without knocking, sat at the table where we had once carved turkeys, and sliced cherry pies and slid a fat envelope toward me. Tessa placed her gold pin on top as if crowning a victory. A guarantee, she said, a hiccup with an investment. Sign, and the storm will pass. I skimmed the first page and saw the number and read $300,000 and felt the thin skin over my heart go cold. Marcus spoke softly as if I were the one who needed calming. Mom, I know you have a separate account. I have seen the statements. Help this one time. You live alone. The house is paid off. You are fine. I asked why I should trust them after so many loans that had become silence. He clenched his jaw. She folded her arms. The air thickened until even the ticking clock sounded like a warning. Then he leaned close and whispered the line that told me I had run out of time. If you do not pay, they will come for us first. I smiled the way women smile when they have been trained to be agreeable. Before tonight, I said, and he exhaled as if a rescue boat had appeared. They left in a drift of expensive scent and hard heels. I sat alone, looking at the mug Marcus had painted in second grade and the Christmas cards that still glittered on the sideboard, and felt the old story end. The obedient mother had lasted a long time. She would not survive the evening. My real safe lived inside Robert's piano, a steel box tucked beneath a hymn book he used to open with careful hands. Inside lay the power of attorney that transferred my assets into a private trust called BH Heritage, drawn years ago by my friend and attorney, Nora Patel. I called her. She answered in the steady voice that had shepherded me through every hard conversation since Robert died. Let me guess, she said. He came again. Worse, I told her. He brought his wife and a pen. They want $300,000. Do not sign, she said. Keep the originals. I will trigger the asset protection file now. With the lid of the piano still open, I spread the paper trail of 8 years of loans to Marcus. Transfers and careful sums with notes about business expansions and urgent friends. I took photographs of every page, saved scans to an encrypted drive, and slid the originals back into the box. Then I wrote a note to my sister Clara in Arizona in our private language. If you do not hear from me for a few days, I am on a trip. Keep the family photo safe. She would read the message behind the words. I withdrew a small amount of cash and walked to the bank to open a new account tied to the trust, no paper statements to the house, no easy doors left unlocked. By dusk, I had packed a modest suitcase, my medications, the USB drive with documents, and a letter addressed to Marcus. You are right. I will not let them come for you, but I will not let them find me either. I left the envelope on the kitchen table, beside a decoy file of photocopies that looked meaningful and said almost nothing. Before I stepped out, I crossed the street to my neighbor of 2 decades, Mr. Coleman, a Navy man with clear eyes and a talent for silence. Would you water the roses for me? I asked. I am visiting an old friend. He nodded once. We have known each other long enough to understand the kindness of not asking questions. At 9 p.m., I locked the door and called a car to Santa Fe Depot. The station lights gave the night a tired glow. On the platform, I bought a ticket with cash for the night train east. San Diego slid past the window like a bright ribbon and then faded to black. I opened a small notebook and began a ledger no one else would write. Dates, amounts, promises. Each line a small cut that finally told the truth about my son and me. Somewhere past the desert edge, I closed my eyes and felt the fear loosen a little. The woman my son expected, the one who signed and apologized and signed again, was staying behind in that house by the sea. I would miss her soft heart. I would not miss her vanishing spine. By sunrise, I was in Flagstaff, the air thin and cold, the pines smelling like a clean new page. I changed trains, paid cash, kept my phone off, and felt the first quiet beat of something I had not felt in years. Not safety? Not yet. Something simpler. Agency. By the time I reached Santa Fe in early afternoon, The sky was a taut blue, and the adobe walls held the sun like clay cups. I rented an inexpensive room near the plaza from Isabel, a widow who spoke gently and asked nothing more than my first week paid in cash. "Here we do not pry," she said. "Make yourself at home." The words slipped into me like heat. Home did not have to be a place I built for others. It could be a place I chose for myself. The first days in Santa Fe felt like walking barefoot over cool tile after a fever. I rose early around 6:30 a.m. and circled the plaza with a paper cup of chamomile, learning the smells of the place wood smoke in the alleys, baking bread silver and leather from the artisan stalls. Each afternoon, I sat by the window of a small café and opened my notebook, rebuilding my life line by line. I listed every transfer to Marcus, every promise, every text that began with "Mom, just this once." At 8:00 p.m., when the square went quiet, I backed up my notes to an encrypted folder and turned the screen toward the wall, as if closing a book on a painful chapter. Agency, I told myself, is a habit. Practice it. Nora called the second morning. Her voice was low and composed, an anchor in a moving sea. "Beverly." I triggered the asset protections and placed your retirement under BH Heritage. Also freeze your credit immediately and turn on two-factor for every account. I followed each step the way people in storms follow lighthouses. By noon, I had 3 new pins, fresh passwords, and alerts set to ping only the new number I had given to 3 people, Nora, my sister Clara, and soon the officer Nora insisted I meet. Before we hung up, Nora added something that landed like a quiet dare. If Marcus tries to claim you are incapacitated, you need a fresh cognitive evaluation. Let no one use your age as a lever. I booked a clinic appointment for 10:30 a.m. The next day, walked in with my notebook and left with a letter from Dr. Leland that said in careful sentences I possessed full decision-making capacity. It was a paper shield, but a sturdy one. That afternoon, I kept another appointment, this time at the police station with Lieutenant Sofia Alvarez. She looked like the sun had carved resolve into her face. Steady gaze, plain clothes, a binder under one arm. I told her about the threats, the demand for $300,000, the decoy safe, and the real one. She listened without interrupting, then slid a card toward me with her direct number. "You did the right thing, leaving," she said. "We see this more than you would believe, adult children using debt and fear to move an elder like a pawn. If anyone comes near you, call me. If anything smells wrong, call me." I tucked the card into my wallet like a charm and felt a thin line of breath open in my chest. On the 4th day, unknown numbers began to bloom on my new phone like bruises. The first voicemail came at 11:12 a.m. Marcus soft-voiced and contrite. "Mom, I am sorry for earlier. We just need a bridge loan. I will pay you back." The second at 7:46 p.m. carried a colder edge. "You cannot disappear. Do not push me to do something stupid." I wrote the times and words into my log with a hand that no longer shook. The next morning, an email slid into the address I used only with Nora. Subject line: "Look what they did in your name." Inside lay a scan of a loan contract that named Tessa as primary signer and me as asset guarantor. My signature forged in strokes so close to mine, it made my skin prickle. 37% interest each month. Under the notary block, a note mother agreed verbally. I printed it, breathed, and drove the pages to Alvarez. She flipped through, jaw set. "We will treat this as signature forgery and identity misuse," she said. "Do not reply. Let us pull the thread." Alvarez proposed a sting. We would log into my bank from a public place and watch to see who tried to ghost through the same door. At 2:15 p.m., 2 days later, I sat inside the Adobe Bean Café under a window washed with high desert sun. The cappuccino steamed between my hands like a small animal finding warmth. I typed my credentials while Alvarez and 2 plainclothes officers sat scattered near the door. For a few minutes, nothing. Then a security alert flashed another device attempting to sign in 48 miles away. Alvarez murmured into her mic. A gray SUV idled across the street windshield, throwing back glare. Within hours, the bank tied the attempt to an IP near Marcus's office in San Diego. 3 days later, Alvarez called to say a young man named Greg Hudson had been detained with my boarding house address in his pocket and a note scrawled with initials that broke something old inside me. "Just scare her. Do not do anything stupid. M.H." I did not cry. I set the phone down on the little maple desk and stared at the wall until my breathing smoothed. When it did, I called Nora. She moved like a surgeon. We filed a forgery complaint, froze every vulnerable pathway, and requested a temporary no-contact order. She also said a sentence that lifted a weight off my ribcage. "Beverly, you are not destroying a family. You are refusing to be destroyed by one." The court granted the temporary order within 48 hours and set a hearing date. The paper arrived at 10:05 a.m., official and calm, and I taped a copy inside my closet door, like a promise. Even with the order, Alvarez suggested I relocate for a short stretch to a senior safe house, low profile, 24-hour security, a front porch, lined with rocking chairs and lavender. I arrived at 6:20 p.m. with a single suitcase and a folder of documents, and a woman named June showed me a small room with a bed, a desk, and a window toward a sloping lawn. Here, she said, no one asks what you lost. We help you take yourself back. Nights in the safe house felt like sleeping under a heavy quilt stitched by strangers who somehow knew my measurements. In the common room, I met women whose stories struck the same nerve as mine. A granddaughter draining a retirement, a son demanding a deed transfer, a boyfriend who turned a joint account into a siphon. We passed a tin of cookies and told our truth softly, as if the words could still break. What I learned in those evenings was simple and devastating. You do not need bruises to be battered. Sometimes 3 words. Don't you love me? Can bend a spine for decades. In that quiet, I practiced new language. No, not today. That account is closed. Please put it in writing. When fear surged, I wrote. When guilt whispered, I walked the lavender path and counted my steps, 1 for leaving, 1 for staying gone. By the time the hearing notice arrived, confirming a date 2 weeks out, I could say my own name without apologizing for it. I was not an obedient mother. I was a woman bracing her back, learning to hold a line. The hearing was held in a small Santa Fe courtroom on a mild morning, when sunlight streamed through tall windows, cutting the air into bright rectangles. I wore a navy coat Robert had once said made me look stubborn in the best way. Across the room sat Marcus' clean-shaven expression, polished his lawyer whispering in his ear. When he saw me, he tried to smile, a faint curve that begged to be mistaken for regret. I kept my eyes level. The judge entered, asked for evidence, and Nora stepped forward, her calm, precise voice, guiding each exhibit: the forged contract, the IP logs from Marcus's office, the bank surveillance photo of him filing false authorizations. The room went so still, I could hear the air vent hum. Marcus's attorney spoke next, calling him misled, pressured, a victim of misunderstanding. But when the court displayed the text Marcus had sent to a partner, "If she finds out, I'll fake remorse. She's old. She won't dare report her son," there was a hush sharp enough to slice through the lies. The judge looked up, then down at me. "Mrs. Hale, would you like to speak?" I rose slowly, hands steady on the rail. "Your Honor," I said, "I am not here for revenge. I am here because silence cost me too much. All my life, I believed love meant saying yes. I know now it sometimes means saying enough." I turned toward Marcus. "Son, I forgive you. But forgiveness isn't a return ticket. It's a boundary." The verdict came an hour later, guilty of financial fraud, signature forgery, and elder intimidation. 2 years and 8 months in prison, full restitution, 5-year no-contact order. I didn't cheer. I simply exhaled. It felt like setting down a burden I'd carried through too many winters. A week later, Nora told me Marcus had requested a supervised visit. I thought about it for days, then agreed, not for reconciliation but for closure. The facility was gray concrete and cold echo. Marcus entered in an orange jumpsuit, thinner eyes bruised with sleeplessness. He said he'd only wanted to save the family. I looked straight at him. "No, you wanted to save yourself from the consequences of your choices." He lowered his head, tears sliding soundless. When time was called, I rose. "Losing you," I said quietly, "was the price of keeping myself." Outside, the Santa Fe wind caught my hair, and the sky was so clean it almost hurt. For the first time, freedom wasn't an idea. It was air. I went back to my little studio downtown, brewed chamomile tea, and signed a year's lease under the BH Heritage Trust, 6 months prepaid. I hung Robert's photo above the desk, his hand on my shoulder, frozen mid-laugh. No one knew my story here, and that anonymity was mercy. Weeks passed. I started selling pies at the weekend craft market, embroidered scarves beside silver-haired women who called me the pie lady. The money was small, but honest. One neighbor, Agnes, taught me a budgeting rule: 50 for needs, 30 for joy, 20 for savings. For the first time, every number in my notebook felt chosen, not begged. Soon, I began teaching free embroidery classes at the community center. 6 women showed up that first Tuesday. As we stitched, they shared fragments of their own betrayals, sons, husbands, daughters, who treated them as open accounts. Between threads, I said softly, "Every stitch mends something, even the parts inside us." Laughter rose, shaky, but real. Months later, Alvarez called. "The district attorney accepted your case. Marcus will face formal charges. Be prepared, they might propose a settlement." I answered without hesitation, "I'm done buying peace." That same week, Tessa reached out from a women's shelter. Her voice trembled, but it was steady at the edges. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I told her." "Don't say it for me. Say it for yourself. Keep walking forward." That night, I joined a therapy group for victims of financial abuse. When asked the hardest lesson, I said, "Learning that I can say no without apology." The facilitator nodded. "Boundaries," he said, "are the alphabet of healing." The seasons turned. I saved enough to open a small office for New Dawn Seniors, a project Nora and I built, to help others like me. The first workshop was held on a bright morning that smelled of cinnamon and new hope. 50 people came, eyes wary, hearts half closed. I told them my story, the pen on the table, the forged papers, the train to Santa Fe. Then I wrote 3 lines on a whiteboard: separate money, keep evidence, build support. These are the 3 keys, I said, to reclaiming your life. When a woman asked if I regretted suing my son, I smiled gently. Yes, but I'd regret it more if I had done nothing. Applause came like rainfall. Among the faces, I saw Tessa at the back, thinner, calmer. She whispered, "Thank you," when we met. I rested a hand on her shoulder. What matters is that you stepped out. The next day, the Santa Fe Journal printed my photo under the headline, "Woman Turns Pain into Movement." Our hotline rang 20 times before noon. Most callers began with trembling voices. "My son controls my pension. My husband won't give me my own card." Each time I listened and said, "You're not alone. You're not crazy." And they believed me. As the months passed, we built classes on credit safety, legal literacy, and the courage to refuse. Alvarez gave talks on recognizing exploitation, reminding everyone the law protects actions, not titles. That sentence became our motto. Then one morning, a letter arrived from Marcus's reentry program. He was planting trees with a rehabilitation crew. "I don't ask forgiveness," he wrote. "I just hope you live well. That will prove I didn't destroy you completely." I answered simply, "Live honestly. Stand up on your own. That will be enough." A year later, during a community event, I saw him again, jeans work vest, quiet eyes. We spoke in a café, 2 people no longer bound by old roles. Forgiveness. I told him as a process, not a blank check. He nodded. "I understand. When I left, I paid for his coffee, not from guilt, but courtesy." Now, New Dawn Seniors fills a small brick office on Cirillos Road. We have phones, volunteers, sunlight. Agnes manages budgets. June handles calls. I speak to rooms full of people who once thought they were invisible. Each time I tell my story, I end with the same line: freedom begins the moment you say enough. This morning, as I walked to work, I passed a row of young trees along the sidewalk, slender trunks, fresh leaves. I stopped, touched one, and smiled. Maybe Marcus planted it, maybe not. Either way, it stands straight toward the light. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. And tell me in the comments what part of Beverly's journey spoke to your heart. Your voice might help someone else find theirs.